Good morning. We will now pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Good, man. You're looking good, sir.
Hey, dude.
How you been?
Good, man.
These veterans of the 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines fought together in one of the bloodiest battles of the 20-year war in Afghanistan. This is the first time some of them have seen each other in years.
Oh, man.
What's up, man?
Their battalion suffered the highest casualty rate of any Marine unit during the war. 25 were killed in action and hundreds were wounded in a deployment to Sangin in Helmand Province from 2010 to 2011. David Castillo, Zachary Stengel, and Marcus Chischili were all awarded Purple Hearts for wounds they sustained in combat. We sat down with them to talk about the end of the war. That Sangin deployment is pretty notorious. Why is that?
Sangin was the last Taliban stronghold in Afghanistan.
Exactly.
And they fought tooth and nail to try and save it. And that's why we threw a lot of guys at it. All of us walked away with some sort of wound, whether that's mental or physical.
What has it been like for you guys watching the war end the way that it's ending?
The military leadership, the advisors of the president are cowards. Cowards, straight scared to tell them no. You can't tell me that you're gonna leave American lives, allies, to fend for themselves. It's totally wrong, and it makes me, as an American, it makes me sad to be an American.
We removed ourselves in a way that doesn't make sense. They left millions of people destitute. Our country let them down. We made a promise to them. We made promises to them on face-to-face levels.
Like individually.
Individually. We made promises to them, and I think that's really what hurts the most, is these people that our friends died for, are now having to relive the same horrors that we fought and many of us died to change. And that's devastating.
What do you think could have been done differently for this to have ended differently?
Man, ended differently, I don't know who's to say, but it should have happened in a way that everyone was allowed enough time to get out of there, allow us to get all information out there. Because the thing is, the intel that we had, tons of intel, like who knows what the guys left, logbooks, any kind of information that we had of what's going on next. You know, that's a lot of information that the Taliban now have control.
If we were to ever get into some type of conflict again in the future, and we're talking about building the governance or sustainability of a country or a region, there has to be an exit plan before we even say, like, yes, let's send people there. I think the American spirit is always, willing to stand up and fight for the preservation of our freedoms. And when 9/11 happened, that entire event basically thrusted us into armed conflict, but there was no exit strategy. It was developing kind of like as we were basically making the rules up as we kind of went along.
I don't think the American population as a whole understands the sacrifice, the heart that we left over there. Imagine working and striving and fighting tooth and nail with your actual life every day, thinking that you're making a difference, and then one day you wake up and it's all gone. We'll undoubtedly see veteran lives lost because of this. We will undoubtedly see people commit suicide because everything that they fought for feels like it was in vain. Veterans are gonna kill themselves because of this, and I don't think the men in suits are quite aware of that just yet.
Do you think it was in vain?
Yeah, I do. As somebody that bled in that war, as all of us have, the guys that didn't come home, why? Why did they not come home? These are 19, 20-year-old kids that never got to come home, never got to start their lives. And we abandoned them. We abandoned those guys. And that's hurtful.
Do you guys all agree? Are you on the same page as Zach?
I'm not gonna say 100% vain. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was very, very upsetting to see the transformation of Afghanistan as a whole. I tell the guys that I talk to, I was like, hey, the soldiers, the Marines, the people who fight the warriors, they're the ones who win the battles. And it's the politicians who lose the war. And I always want them to try to remember that, because none of it I feel like is ever in vain. Why? Because we signed up and said, yes, I will go. Each and every one of us said, like, this is an opportunity for me to fight for my country, to fight for myself, to fight for my people. And most of the time, the experiences that we have in the military are for the better.
If you could go back in time and choose whether or not to enlist again, would you do it?
No.
Not the
That's
answer.
like-
I think a better question to ask, because do you have kids?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you were to say, do you want your children to be in the military? And I would say, hell no.
Yeah.
No. I take a look at all 5 of my kids and they'd be like, what would you say if they wanted to be Marines one day? I'd be like, please, I at least sacrificed my time. Find a path to where you don't have to think that the military is the only thing that's left for you, because I'm trying to create a better life for my children.
Does the way that the war in Afghanistan went down, does that have an influence on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why would I want my children or other people to join the military where, at the end of the day, it's just something that's not going to be as influential as they thought it was going to be in the first place?
If my daughter came to me one day and said, Dad, I want to be a Marine, I would wholeheartedly support it. Wholeheartedly support it. My only hope is that we're not fighting the same war that I already fought. My only hope is that we're still not fighting the same enemy I shed blood for.
I served in Afghanistan with 3-5 Indian Company as squad leader and sang in Afghanistan.
I was on my 5th deployment at the time, and our job was to be a part of the police mentor team, started in Kajaki, Afghanistan. We were initially in Sangin Valley. We were just there, to train the Afghans to do some basic things in police tactics and patrolling, and basically, expand our efforts there.
I was a combat engineer. It was my job to lead all the patrols and disarm my ADs and just make sure these guys got back with their legs, hopefully. And yeah, sorry, bro.
Fail.
Yeah, sorry.
Failed that one. You're the
bad.
worst, dude. You suck.
Honestly, that one wasn't on me. That was another engineer. My guys were fine. Way to start off, assholes.
All right, go ahead. A lot of guys don't open up, so when we're around each other, we actually get to open up and act ourselves, act normal.
What is your understanding of why you were there in the first place?
When I was 19 years old, that's when I was there on my first deployment. I went to my sergeant as a young Lance Corporal, and I said, Sergeant Hens, why are we here? Why are we here? On the day that we lost one of my good friends, why are we here? And he said, well, because of 9/11. I said, well, that was 10 years ago. That's 10 years ago. It doesn't make sense anymore. And then I really started to take stock in where I was, what I was doing, and ultimately who I was doing it for. It's about these guys and girls. And that's the only thing that wasn't in vain was our fighting for each other.
Now that you guys are all back in civilian life, what is it like to talk to people about this who have not been through what you've been through?
There's nobody I talk to unless it's these guys about anything. When we get together, it goes right back to what happened in 2010, 2011, 12. It's so easy to just sit down and have a conversation, but with anybody else, it's kind of hard. It's like the commonality of a conversation has to be with those who understand, what it's like to be there. There isn't a smell, taste, feeling, memory that we don't associate with our lives when it comes to that specific period of time. If there's an opportunity for somebody to see the things that we were talking about today, I think letting the veteran community know that there's an entire nation that loves and supports their efforts, whether they were in combat or not. If they chose to serve in the United States military, that there's honor behind that, and that no matter what this country goes through as a whole, no one can ever really take that away.